An all-black cast leading a sitcom for a young television network that inspires an even more successful all-white sitcom for a bigger network. Where have we heard this before? This is the Nacirema. Sometimes, you just have to give flowers to people when they are still here. And in this one-pager, we have to give flowers to the brilliant, talented, and mesmerizing cast of what I think is one of the best sitcoms of its era. If you've never heard the names of this fabulous group of friends, Kyle, Overton, Sinclair, Maxine, Rod the Maverick, Regine, and Khadijah, let me introduce you to them. With that being said, this is a Nacirema One Pager, the brilliance of living single. The brilliance of living single. Kyle Barker is your quintessential, single, high-earning, independent, astute, black alpha male. He spends his stockbroker income on fine threads and classy dates. Khadijah James' quips are whimsical. She is a woman amongst women. She leads her emerging publication with a laser-sharp focus of one day becoming a top magazine. Regine Hunter is a swashbuckling, unapologetic, prototypical New Yorker. She would never let anyone catch a hair from her many wigs out of place. Overton Wakefield Jones is a transplant to New York City by way of Cleveland. His Midwestern drawl oddly fits right in with this group. This handyman knows his way around their building and his love, Sinclair. Speaking of Sinclair James Jones, this aspiring actor provides just the right comic relief while trying to keep everyone bubbly and refreshed. Lastly, but certainly not least, Maxine Shaw, the maverick attorney who didn't live with any of the gang, but seemingly always found herself in the girl's home. Her back-and-forth exchanges with Regine and Kyle made for must-see banter. Living Single was a coming-of-age comedy that displayed the brilliance of black characters without the shucking and jiving most audiences were, open parentheses, and kind of still are, close parentheses, used to. For 5 seasons, it showcased 6 friends living in a Brooklyn brownstone, open parentheses. Again, Maxine didn't live in the same building, close parentheses. Their various intertwining journeys are told through their respective professions and love interests. I remember watching as a teenager, thinking how cool all 6 characters were. For most of its run, Living Single's time slot was immediately following Martin. The iconic sitcom starring Martin Lawrence was part stand-up comedy, part sketch comedy. At times, Martin bordered on the obnoxious and played to stereotypes. In contrast, Living Single made you laugh just as much as Martin, but by means of much wittier jokes. The banter between all parties showed that you didn't have to go over the top to extract laughs from the audience, nor did you have to engage in overly serious topics, open parentheses. One of the most serious topics I witnessed was a character calling the women bitches, close parentheses. There was something about 30-something-year-olds who were all employed and at varying stages of their romantic lives that was television gold. The constant dueling of Kyle and Maxine was television gold. The guessing when Khadijah and Regine would pick from a steady stream of eligible bachelors was Sex in the City before Sex in the City. Oh, and yes, it was television gold. Witnessing hip-hop icon Queen Latifah, open parentheses, who played Khadijah, close parentheses, transition from the brilliant lyricist who held her own in a male-dominated industry to a leading actress in a multi-season sitcom was television gold. Living Single's success showed how versatile black entertainers can be on sitcom television. Watching these on-screen friends develop and maintain non-toxic relationships was a very refreshing escape on Thursday nights. This was much needed at a time in American history that was punctuated with the mass incarceration of African American males. Living Single wasn't ratings gold amongst broader viewership, but it routinely topped ratings in the African American demographic. Each week, these 6 friends provided audiences with great laughter that strongly distinguished this Yvette Lee Browser created show on television. Speaking of, quote, friends, end quote, Living Single was a clear prelude to the obvious NBC sitcom knockoff, Friends. Friends was widely successful and is still very popular today in syndication. The show made megastars of Jennifer Aniston, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, Courtney Cox, and others. Friends more than likely was in pre-production stages way before Living Single premiered. But we would be remiss if we didn't give Living Single its props for becoming sort of the test pilot for Friends. NBC was handed a proven recipe for its concept of the meandering sitcom a year before it premiered, courtesy of Living Single. After Friends premiered, it went toe-to-toe in the 8:30 time slot with Living Single. At the time, NBC was one of the most popular networks with its quote, must-see TV, end quote lineup with Seinfeld, Friends, Mad About You, and ER. In those days, before streaming, three networks, CBS, NBC, and ABC, reigned supreme. But Living Single was able to carve out its niche by not placating to the masses. We saw guest stars the likes of Bobby Bonilla, Heavy D, Arsenio Hall, Alonzo Mourning, and so many more. Khadijah even dated basketball superstar Grant Hill in an episode, open parentheses. She made so many women jealous at the time, close parentheses. The wisecracks, guest stars, and camaraderie weren't the only things that were great. The show's arc never, quote, jumped the shark, end quote, and it knew how to develop stories and characters that felt so real. Max running for alderman, Overton trying in vain to propose to Sinclair, Kyle's ups and downs at his firm, Sinclair's never-ending search for a successful acting career, and Regine's unwavering diva moments, coupled with the unexpected changing of jobs that almost left her destitute. The show truly had a cult following of African American viewers, and frankly sometimes that's all you need. Once a treasure like this reaches the masses, it usually becomes a shell of its former self, open parentheses, see any hip-hop artist before and after mass success, close parentheses. Living Single was the little engine that could. It stood tall for 5 seasons amongst giants of the industry with effervescent chemistry that most shows cannot sustain. It wasn't until season 4 where cracks in the steady cast started to show. T.C. Carson, open parentheses, Kyle Barker, close parentheses, left the show only to return for the finale in the final season. Fox almost didn't greenlight a 5th and final season until fans began voicing their pleasure for a proper ending. The characters were strong enough to remain in fans' memories, but not too strong as to typecast their stars for the rest of their careers. Open parentheses, see Jaleel White, close parentheses. Shows like Living Single need to be given their flowers while their cast is still alive and kicking. To not give them their just due would be a disservice to a pillar of African American television. Although these 6 friends weren't celebrated the same way others were, they will always live collectively in our hearts. Well, at least mine. They knew, quote, whenever this life got tough, they had to fight, end quote, with their, quote, homegirl standing to their left and their right, end quote. They were, quote, true blue and tight like glue. This has been a Nacirema One Pager, The Brilliance of Living Single. Please share, like, subscribe, and comment, and always remember, power to the informed. This is the Nacirema.